Hello and welcome to Metro Tech Tips, Metro AV Tech Tips Live. I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
And obviously we're not together again this week. I'm at CDA Tech Tips in Fort Lauderdale, and Adam is...
I'm in the office for once. We got it reversed finally, right?
Well, now, this one's actually kind of exciting because I actually have this week's guest with me, but I'm going to let you do the introduction.
Yeah, perfect. So with us today, we've got Ben. And Ben, part of my pronunciation of your last name, say it for me if you would.
Aymami.
Aymami. So we've got Ben here with us today.
And
so, Aymami. That's what it is.
Perfect. So we're really excited about today's episode because we have, for one, we have a special guest, which is always exciting. And second, because Ben actually went ahead and put together a nice presentation for us, which is more than Brent and I have ever done. And so in this case,
I appreciate you including me in that statement.
Yes, of course. Yes. Well, and because the truth be told, I put most of the work and you put none of the work. But anyways, moving on.
Truth be told, I'm still the better looking.
Well, just to tell you what, I had to ride with this guy up here today, so it was a wild experience for sure.
That's for sure.
And on that happy note, I'm going to step out of the limelight, let Ben take over, and the two of you are going to do your things, and I'll just throw in my usual third-party comment from the side.
Perfect.
Very
All right.
good.
So,
rock and roll, guys.
of course, everyone who's watching, thank you so much for checking in today. And as always, like, share, subscribe, hit the little bell notification whenever to let you know whenever we do go live, which of course is every Wednesday at 3 p.m. That's Eastern time, of course. And of course, we do also go live every Friday at 3 p.m. as well, where we talk about more of our own products and whatnot that go along with whatever we spoke about on the Wednesday episode. So, without further ado, Ben, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What your position at American Lighting Proluxe, or Proluxe American Lighting, however that's
sure. So I'm the regional sales manager for Proluxe by American Lighting, and I handle the custom integration side. American Lighting's been around for 30 years. We've always sold through lighting showrooms and electrical distribution, and found that when it comes to technology, the integrator is the best way to go. And as you know, tape light is now getting more and more technical, color changing, stuff like that. And so that's why we built Proluxe 3 years ago, to actually step into the integration market and take care of the integrator directly.
Yeah. So what's fun about this is I actually have one of your Proluxe lighting stuff here in preparation for today's episode. And so what I wanted to do is kind of go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode, where really what we're trying to look for is what are things to look for when you're doing LED lighting design, and what are some pitfalls, what are some things that could get in the way. And so I guess what I can do is go ahead and you've got the presentation. I'll go ahead and put it up, and Ben, I'll let you kind of take it away and tell us what you've got.
Yeah, perfect. And we'll talk about layout and a retrofit, and layout and a new build as well. So we'll talk about both.
Perfect. And as always, everybody, as we're going through this, if you have any questions at all about whatever it is that we're talking about, please feel free to leave your comments over in the chat section over on the side. Or if you're watching this after the fact, please leave them down in the comment section below. We do monitor those. And so if you have any questions for Ben directly, leave the comment down below, and we'll make sure that gets over to Ben so we can get you a good answer for whatever it is that you've got going on. So, Ben,
guys, don't forget, I'm a genius in my own mind. It's self-proclaimed. And so I know everything, kind of, or I know a little bit about everything. I don't know what it is, but let's
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What do we got?
All right. So let's go to the next slide, my friend.
All righty.
All right. So what's the hype when it comes to tape light? What's it all about? Linear lighting, right? So it's profile and performance. It's small. It's flexible. It provides a continuous line of light, so that prevents shadows and stuff like that, and we'll actually look at that further in the presentation. And then it packs a punch. So, for example, Proluxe has a tape light that shoots 1,000 lumens per foot, so you could actually light a whole room with the reel of tape. So LEDs have really come a long way. The next part, it's 24 volt, so makes it easier to control, and you don't have to be an electrician to install it.
That's really important. I mean, to be perfectly honest, many of us as installers, we've got the low voltage capabilities. We're good to go there. We can do the higher voltage stuff. Mentally, we have the capacity to do that, and we have the skills to do it, but the licensing for it. So this is nice that it's actually at the 24 volt level. And so that does make a big difference. And it does make it kind of enticing for installers that are doing just normal installations already.
Absolutely. It's awesome. And that's part of the reason you, like I said, you guys already control it. Why not let yourself try? You already understand low voltage. Not all electricians understand the low voltage part.
Yep, exactly.
So the product is fully customizable. So what that means is it's all field cuttable. So every reel of tape you get is you're going to be able to cut it to a certain length that you need. And it's anywhere. We have a tape that's cuttable every diode to every 6 inches, depending on the quality and the size of the tape, or the light output of the tape, I should say. And then the health benefits, right? So, and we'll talk more about this in the next slides, but it eliminates shadows and it reduces glare.
Nice.
Go ahead, next slide, please.
All right.
So here's a good example of what a lot of people are doing nowadays. So instead of doing a step light now, people are lighting a handrail and walking up. That does two things for you. So you're able to get a clean line of light. So it's a balance beam that you follow up. And also you don't have the shadows that are given off by stair lights where you have a dark spot and a bright spot. So your eyes are not adjusting as much. So great balance beam aid, and you have a clean line all the way up.
Well, and that helps out a lot, especially if you have lights on different steps. If you're missing a step between those stair lights, you can have a step that's lit up, or you can have a step that's dark. And then as you're, groggily waking up in the morning at 5 a.m. or something, and you don't know if you're on a step or not, and so you can run into different problems. So,
well, if it's bright, it's falling down the steps in the morning. So,
yes, exactly, yes.
Okay,
we'll go to the next one here.
You only saw me do that twice today.
Twice. That's a record for you, Brent.
I only went down one stair step.
All right, Ben, what are we looking at here?
A little confusing, but
hey, remember, I'm a genius in my own mind.
There you go.
But and here's another great example of glare and shadowing, and then what a clean line of light looks like. So you look at that top row of LED puck lights. Do you see where it's doing a couple things, right? It's highlighting the trinkets. So you're able to highlight a trinket, but those are things probably you don't necessarily want to highlight in your kitchen. But the second thing is when you're looking at it and you see the shadow, right? So your eyes are having to adjust every time you're looking in a certain area, and it makes your eyes tired. Okay. Now you look right below that, you look at the tape light or the linear light. You see how it's nice, clean, and crisp. So what that does for you is it doesn't highlight, the candlesticks or whatever are on there, right? It highlights the backsplash. It brings out the wood grain of the backsplash, as you can see. And so it gives it a finished look and feel without wear and tear on the eyes.
That's right.
All right. So here's a kitchen in the middle of Illinois. I love this. Is a lighting designer's actually mom's home that we did some tape in. And if you were to take a look at, first of all, you gotta comment on the bat phone. The bat phone is the best thing ever on that wall. Right?
I do like that. That's good.
Yeah. So anyway, if you take a look at this is what your traditional kitchen is going to look like with undercap lighting. A lot of kitchens do not even have undercap lighting, but if you take a look, so literally you have four cans and some task lighting, some undercap lighting. Okay. So what I'm going to show you next is we're basically using half the power and double the lumen output in this room. Go ahead and flip to the next one. This is using tape light in that room. Okay. Like I said, double the lumen output at half the power.
Okay? And this is actually giving us kind of that softer indirect light, but it's still lighting it more than what it had before. You don't have the super focused direct light for it, And also, am I seeing that correctly? Is there up lighting and down lighting above the cabinets?
That is absolutely correct. So if you were to take a look here, there's actually 2 rows of tape lights. So that top row, there's a light shooting up. So you can actually set things above the cabinet and highlight them and show and wash the product. Right. And then also what you have is you're washing the fronts of those doors, right? These are beautiful cabinet doors. And what it is, there's a row of tape light, and it's washing the door, so it's highlighting the cabinets. And then of course, nice. Underneath you have your same amount of tax light, and what you have below is your toe kick lighting. Now this is the best part of this, right? So first of all, like I said, the lines of light, it gives you something to follow, it helps you balance. But second of all, when your lights are off and you want to just go grab something from the kitchen and you have to flip a light on and it blares out your eyes, you're awake, right? It wakes you up. As opposed to you could leave this toe kick light on and a light glow and walk in, be able to see what you want to grab from the kitchen, walk back out, and as like me, go sit on the couch and eat a bunch of potato chips.
Well, and the nice thing about those is that you're talking about keeping those on pretty much all the time, so it acts as a nightlight for you, for the kids, for whatever. But it's also drawing minimal power, right? I mean, it's drawing nowhere near what the old lights would have to draw before.
Correct, absolutely. So, do you mind scrolling back up? Can we kind of show them again real quick?
So here's the before.
Yep.
And look, this before, it does not look bad. I mean, to be perfectly honest,
absolutely
it looks not good, right? It's got good even lighting, at least as well as they could with more direct stuff. And I can see most everything decently well in this one, but the comparison is really where it's at, right? I'll switch over to the next one. It's just very, very nice.
Right. And you're looking, right? So this is an upsell product, but it also, if you were to look at this would only cost a couple $100 more to do than the original setup.
Right.
So you get a lot more, for just a little bit more money.
So real quick before we jump to the next one, I think that's Mark. Mark, for whatever reason, StreamYard doesn't put your name on there. They're saying licensing is still required in most states, just no electrician requirements. And that's true. And a lot of states are actually, even from county to county, it varies on whether or not you need a low voltage license or not. So you still need the licensing, but the truth is that the licensing for low voltage is nowhere near as, what's the word I'm looking for, difficult to obtain. Most of the time, the electrician, you have to go through years and years of training, through schooling, through apprenticeship, and whatever else. Whereas low voltage, a lot of times, it's pretty easy to get into it. Usually, it's like a test that you take, and then you've got it. There's not usually a whole lot of extra.
Well, and with that said, too, is you're absolutely right. Some states require it, and some states don't. But what's nice is as long as you're following NEC code as well, 96 watts or below, you're good to go there. But yeah, you're absolutely right. If you're a low voltage company in some states, it does require a license. Good point,
Very
Mark.
Cool. Let's see. Go to the next one there. All right.
So next part is I'm going to tell you how to choose your tape light. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, what kind of what kind of lumens per foot you're looking for each area that you're downlighting. So you want to look at for 150, you want to have about 150 lumens per foot for accent lighting. So your accent lighting is going to be your tray ceilings that are just, an accent light around the back of a TV, in your theater room if it's not your main line of light, and such that. And then your high output tape is going to be your task lighting. So that's going to be your 300 lumens, and what that's going to do is going to be under cabinet lighting, work areas, and anywhere where somebody's going to work. Under desk shelves, things like that. Anywhere anybody's going to work, that's where you need the 300 lumens per foot. And then the 550 lumens and up product going to be ambient lighting. That's where you're going to actually want to light a room with the product. You want to put a lot of lumens out. So, for example, I talked about our 1,000 lumen per foot tape. You run a line in that in a room. You're going to be able to illuminate the whole room just by that run of tape, depending on how we extrusion it and how we direct the light.
Very cool. Very cool. So if and pardon me if I'm getting too far ahead of us here.
No.
But when I see the different lumens and whatnot, I see like the 150 lumens. You've got backlighting for TVs and ambient lighting, but that would be like the toe kicks. That's where you could put that those lights would be a good spot.
Absolutely. And something to keep in mind too. I mean, if you decide to use the same tape light in a room because that's how you bought it, and it's 300 lumens per foot, it's task lighting, you can still use that task lighting as a toe kick light. But something I always recommend is putting that on its own separate dimmer, or dimming that separately if you're going to have that kind of lumens, because it will put a lot of light out, if that makes sense.
Very cool. Okay.
Yep.
And then, of course, you've got like the 300 lumens, which you've already talked about, the under cabinet, the work areas, things like that, where you need more direct light, but maybe it's a little bit closer to wherever you're working. And then, of course, the spec grade where you're at 550, that would be like where you had it on the other one, where it's along the top, maybe shining up towards the ceiling, and you're trying to light the room as a whole. Is that right?
Absolutely. And keep in mind, so spec grade, and because I know in the AV world, spec grade means like basic, basic spec product. So
right.
In the lighting world, something to keep in mind, when you go do a spec grade tape, it's actually higher lumen. It's more, they say it's specification level tape, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Very cool. So I believe it's Mark. He's asking, what are the energy use comparisons? Do we get into that later on in the guide?
I don't. But I can definitely. What we can do is we can go offline, and I can see what I can pull. I don't know what
Perfect.
the wattages were for that kitchen, but what I do know is what I was told when it was installed. So I'll grab it from the lighting designer.
Perfect. Yeah. So, Mark, what we'll do, go ahead when this video is over, leave a comment with this question, and I'll make sure to go back in. And when we get that information from Ben, we'll put it back on that comment. It'll be a reply to that comment. So thank you for that. Good question.
Thank you, sir.
All right. On to the next one.
Yeah. So before we do that, and actually, let's do color temperature. That's perfect. So we can talk about this. I want to talk about CRI too. So a lot of people too, when you buy an LED tape too, you want to look at CRI. Okay, that's called the color rendering index. And why that's so important is because LEDs a long time ago would have a terrible CRI. So when they first came out, you would look and everything would look more gray. And CRI is basically, if you were to go outside underneath the sun and take a look at an apple, when you have a high CRI, you're able to go and put it back under the LED, and it looks exactly the same, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
So all the products. So you want to take a look at a 90 plus CRI product. Most of our product is all 96 plus CRI. But that's something to keep in mind, because the higher the CRI, the better color rendering, the better everything looks. If you were to take a look, things are going to look more gray. So the apple would look more gray under a poor CRI light as opposed to a good CRI light.
What is the highest CRI?
So, 100 CRI is the highest.
And what is that the equivalent of?
The sun.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah. Yes. So but 96 plus CRI is pretty darn close. There's nothing that's 100 CRI on the market.
Right. Very cool.
Unless you use the sun.
Of course, we're redirecting sunlight at that point.
Yeah.
So when we look at the color temperature scale, one of the things that we run into, Brent knows this very well, is when we have the incandescent lights that were from before, and now we're moving into the LEDs. It seemed like there for a while it was very difficult to get that incandescent warm glow, and I think we're finally to the point now where we're starting to actually get a good recreation of that. Do you see the same thing?
Absolutely. So if we're thinking of incandescent light, so there's a product out there called Warm Dim that actually mimics the incandescent light, because an incandescent light bulb actually, as you dim it down, it actually warms. Well, an LED tape cannot mimic a true, like, let's say, for example, we're going to talk about 2700 Kelvin, which is a warm light. But if you dim that 2700 Kelvin, it's going to stay at 2700 Kelvin the whole time, as opposed to if you had an incandescent bulb that was 2700 Kelvin, and as you dim it down, it would actually warm. So we actually have a product. There's a product on the market. It's called Warm Dim that actually starts at 3000 Kelvin, and as you warm it, the diodes get warmer as well. So as you dim it, as you dim it, the diodes get warmer. But anyway, talking about color temperature, you know, the lower the color temperature, the warmer it is, right? So if we look at 2700K, you want warm and cozy. It's great for bedrooms, living rooms, stuff like that. Yeah. What's that? Romantic is what Brent's saying here. I'm not going to go hang out with him later.
Yeah, this is a really great guide for this, because this has always been a question that I've had, that what number should I go with? What Kelvin should I go with? You know, I know I've got the warm stuff is the lower number, and the cooler stuff, or the bluer stuff, is up at the higher number. But actually being able to quantify what I'm looking at, I like this guide a lot. Is this something, maybe this presentation, or at least a couple of these slides, can we get copies of this to put up and share for people?
Absolutely, and something to take a look at, and it's it's all in the eye of the beholder, right? Because it's all in your customer's mind. So that's why you always should, when you have samples, you kind of show them every color temperature. But standard in the field. So standard, if we were to look at the standard lighting in every home, pretty much is 3000K. That's what standard, what builders put in, whatnot. 2700K is getting more popular, but 2700K I kind of find more in the homes with like darker wood tones and stuff like that, the warmer light to warm it up. And then 3000K is very standard throughout the industry. Very, very standard. What's getting more popular though, because you're getting more to the white light, is the 3500 Kelvin. Because it's right in between your white and blue light. It gives you a true, more white, crisp light. And then, of course, 4,000 to 5,000 Kelvin. 5,000 Kelvin is probably going to be like hospital grade, commercial, industrial. Then 4,000 Kelvin is going to be, your basements, your garages, because it's more of a blue-white light. And if you if you're looking at your car under these more blue lights, you actually can see scratches and dings better. So that's why they're good for garages and basements, and when you're looking at stuff under those areas.
So they all have a purpose. It's not just because you like a certain color. It actually could have a purpose and fit better for a need that you have in that case.
Absolutely. But again, it's something when you talk to your customer in the field, it's always good to have a sample, because it's all in the eye of the beholder, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right.
Ooh.
So next thing you want to take a look at when you're designing a job or putting together a job is the ingress protection. Where's the tape light going, right? So for example, it's showing IP66 here. Okay. So IP66, as you can read here, it protects against dust. So basically small particles, it's not going to penetrate it. And then also it can handle sprays from water. So basically this is a good outdoor product. So you're able to actually mount this outside and not have to worry about it being affected by the weather or the sun, depending on, I guess, what IP66 coating you have on it.
Gotcha. So, and actually, this is kind of interesting. This is something that I've had a discussion with Brent and Stuart about before. But the IP ratings, it's not like it's 66. It's not like the 66th level. It's the first number means something for the physical or for the solid stuff. So like the dust and dirt, and then the second number is where the water comes in. That's what type of water it's able to do. So like an IP68 is completely sealed. Nothing's getting in.
Right.
Yeah, and then where you go from there, if you go up from that, that's where if you have your computer case wide open and you've got the CPU sitting out, you don't want any kind of dust or any kind of anything anywhere near it, because that's going to cause problems, because it is not protected at all. So these are really great charts. Everyone who's watching, if you're interested in these charts, I'll make sure that these get added to the description below to where you can download them, because these are great sales tools for you. It's also great for understanding what it is that you're dealing with for these things here. The the color temperature for me is fantastic. That's great.
Yep. Perfect. All right.
Go to the next one.
All right. So also something that you'll need to take a look at is connectors. So when you're on a tape light job, you always want to use connectors. So for example, you buy our tape, all the connectors come with it. So it's going to come with a multitude of connectors to be able to cut and reconnect the tape in the field, and that's not always the case. But if you were to take a look, this here we call a 4-in-1 connector, the first one, and we call it the block connector. And the reason why is because you can go tape to wire, you can go tape to tape, you can make jumpers, or you can center feed. So something to keep in mind too is when you buy a tape, you want to take a look at the max run as well. And obviously, you have a certain lumen, you have a certain max run on this tape. And obviously when you go higher the lumen, the max run or the shorter the max run is going to be. So when you do that, you have to figure out, and we'll talk more about this too, we have to figure out how we're going to wire it and such to ensure that you're able to take care of your full max run, how many wire pulls, stuff like that. And then next to it there, we have the heavy duty connectors. So for all our color changing tape, we have these heavy duty connectors in there. But jumpers and stuff like that, these are bite connectors. So what these connectors do is they actually bite through the tape, so you can actually yank on it. So anybody on this cast has seen like a basic tape where you slide it in, it slides right back out. You get called back a truck roll. You get called back on a truck roll because the tape light went out, but it really just slid out of the connector. With these connectors, you will not have that issue.
Very cool. Very cool.
Okay, so next slide. All right, so the next part, and you can never forget this, is extrusions. Okay, extrusions are very important, just because it does a few things for you. They come in different mounts, right? They're surface, they're recessed or drywall mount. Okay, it creates a finished look. So what it does is diffuses the light, and it creates a finished look. So you have a clean line of light instead of you seeing dots everywhere. They dissipate heat, and this is a big part of it because heat can affect an LED. So, for example, if you mount an LED without an extrusion, there's nowhere for the LED to dissipate the heat, and what happens is the tape gets hot, and that causes your LED to deteriorate faster. Because it's not like a light bulb where they go out; they just deteriorate after time.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last one is it directs your light. So if you want to go a certain 45-degree angle, 30-degree angle, the extrusions are going to be able to do that for you, so you can highlight artwork, stuff like that on a wall.
Yeah, this is actually really nice because it diffuses the light. That's one of the most important things with LEDs because they are very bright in that one specific thing. So if you're using them in a direct where the light can hit directly at the person viewing them, you're going to get those hot spots. Whereas if you use the diffuse those channels, the extrusions, it helps to diffuse that, so you get a more even lighting across the entire thing. It's just like any kind of, if anybody's used any kind of video systems or camera systems that have the diffused lighting systems in them, kind of like what we have here when we put in our new lights here, our overhead lights are actually diffused lighting, so it actually comes down and evens out the lighting. If you actually open these up and look inside, it's they're actually, I believe they're border lit around the outside of that. So we'll have to give a tour of our little area here at some point to show you what we use for lights and whatnot. But I fully understand and fully appreciate the diffusion possibilities of this. Just because it helps so much. Plus, you get a really cool looking setup with that when you've got the different angles and stuff, and you get a little artistic with it. You get some really cool things going on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can make it completely custom with extrusion, completely custom.
Very cool. Okay.
Yeah. All right, so here's two layouts, right? So we're going to talk about single color tape, and we're going to talk about DMX. Okay, so if we were to take a look at the single color tape, you literally have your dimmer, you have your power supply, and you have your 2-wire tape, and you illuminate your tape. You can dim it right from the dimmer. If you're doing panelized lighting, same type deal. You just your power supply is in a different spot. The next area here, we're talking about a color changing setup through DMX. So for example, this right here is a control 4 setup. So you have your EA3, your EA3 there. You also have your RS-232 engine. Okay, so you need this RS-232 engine. So this to hook your to hook your EA3 up to, because it's gonna change the signal to DMX. And then what you'll do is you'll have your DMX decoders here, and you will daisy chain these DMX decoders together to ensure they're talking together. And then you'll see addresses here. So for example, this is a 5-channel DMX decoder. A 5-channel DMX decoder, basically, when you get it and you plug it in, you power it up, it shows A001. Okay, so that's addresses 1 through 5. Okay, your second decoder, then if you want that to be a separate zone, you want to make that A006. The next one, separate zone, A0011. Next one, A0016. There we go. So yeah, I'm really good at math.
Me too. I'm really good at math too.
but Adam, you're gonna know this product pretty well too, because I know you've done some programming in your day as well. So yeah, and then this goes. So basically, you get your power supply, and it's going to power each of your DMX decoders, and then you run your tape, and you wire your tape up right from your DMX decoders, and they're on they're on their own addresses. So you're able to control each one separately. Now, when we talk about this, is DMX is set up in universes, okay? And universe is 512 channels or addresses. So this RS-232 engine there will do one universe. So that will do about a total of 32 DMX decoders if we were to have them all on separate addresses.
Yeah. Which that's really great. Now, is that one yours, or is that one the one that Blackwire has?
So this is the one that Blackwire has. Ours is, so we have the driver written. We are just waiting for the hardware to come in. And as you know, hardware is probably it's on a boat. It's on a boat.
It's out there somewhere. It's wherever. Look, I'm looking for that back order land. There's a back order land. There's an island somewhere named back order, and all of our stuff is sitting there. So as soon as we can find that island, that back order island, we're gonna get everyone's stuff.
I was gonna say, I'm just gonna put on my floaties and go lay out in the ocean and see if the right container ship will pick me up, and I'll just start.
There you go. Containers. Yeah, exactly. bring it into the ports yourself.
There we go.
All right, let's see.
All right. So this one here. Yeah, so this is going to be a retrofit kitchen layout that we're going to do real quick. So be really cool. So we were like this. So you find your red square, because everybody knows every kitchen that has a micro hood has one above it.
Okay.
It has a plug, power plug, right? So right there, that's where we're going to have our power supply live. Okay, because you're not able to really pull wire too far in these certain areas. Everything's sealed up because of drywall. So you plug your power supply up here next to the micro hood plug. You then decide which tape you're going to use. So if we were to look at this, Adam, which tape do you think we should use on this?
So, well, if we go based on what we were talking about before, it looks like we should do something like the spec lighting above the cabinets, and then the work lighting, the one in between. They're above the countertops, below the stuff, or below the cabinets.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I 100% agree with you. Mm-hmm. Also, though, if we have, because we have 17.8 feet here, we could actually make the task light work as well. So we could do just 2 reels instead of doing we could just do 2 reels, one of spec, one of task. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So I just made this easier for me. So
that's good. That's good.
But so anyway,
so now with that, of course, you wind up with a little bit of excess left over. But hey, you've got more jobs coming up that you can use those on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we were to take a look here, so we're going to have 2 reels of tape. 16.4. So I'm just gonna say we're gonna use the high output 300 lumen per foot tape, just because that's how I designed this. But Adam, you're absolutely right. We probably should use a 7 watt per tape up there, especially if we're lighting a kitchen from that area. But if we're just doing accent lighting up there, the 300 watt tape would work as well. So if we were to take a look, so we would have 2 reels of tape as the bill of materials. We have one 96 watt power supply that would control that full amount, because the tape is actually 3.65 watts per foot, okay, to make that 300 lumens, okay?
Right.
You have a 96 watt power supply, you plug it in here. And remember, something you always want to do with power supply, only load it to 80%.
I think that's a really important thing, because there's a lot of guys will do the math up to the maximum. You know, we'll see, okay, we've got this job, and to save a little bit of money, I'm going to go ahead and get the power supply that just barely covers what I've got going on with the lighting. And you run into major problems. We know this. Brent can probably hear me in the background.
From 70-volt audio.
I'm sorry?
From 70-volt audio.
Well, 70-volt audio, yes, but also when we're talking about power supplies, and we always tell people, don't use the USB power supply in that's built into the panels for the TVs whenever you're powering things that use USB, like our fix-it tools, like the AIO or the Junior and whatnot. Don't use the one that's built into the TV. Make sure that you use a separate power supply, because it actually has the headroom for that, because a lot of times manufacturers, they'll cut back on power supplies because that's the easiest. That's the first thing that they're able to cut back on to save a little bit on it. So the 80% is, I think that's really important to understand that, so that you have the overheads, that you're not using that power supply to its max all the time, because it's just going to burn it out, right? I mean, that's the problem you're going to run into.
Number one issue with linear light, number one thing goes out. I'm going to tell you right now, it's usually never the tape light. It's always the power supply. That's the number one issue. So, as an integrator, as an installer, something you need to know, that if customer calls you and it goes out, first place I would go to is go to the power supply, because that's, I'm going to say 98% of the time, that's the issue.
Oh, this is a good question. So we've got Mammoth George asking a question about the power supplies. He's asking, is a proper 80% power supply instant on, or is there a delay once it's switched on?
So I guess I'm not understanding the question.
One of the problems that I've seen as an installer out in the field, when we use power supplies to power the LEDs, sometimes those power supplies are there's a delay from when they receive enough power to when they're actually powering the LED.
Absolutely. No, yeah, there's no ramp time. You'll see it instantly once you power up the power supply.
And that's mostly because we're not removing power from the power supply. The power supply is actually supplying power constantly to the controller, and the controller is then turning it on and off itself.
Correct. And the other part of that is if the lights are going to be dim more, you could use a smaller power supply, as long as you don't ever put the lights at 100%. So let's say we're using a control force system, and you set the you set the trim to only come on at 50% of the light output. You're only using half the power, so that's something to keep in mind too. So if you're going to have that, and that's me getting more technical, but I guess you should always have a power supply to do the full run of tape.
Always better.
Yes, bigger is always better. That's correct. But yeah, you can do that.
So the last point on this one then is the aluminum, the extrusion then, right? Or no, pardon me. Let me back up. Accessories needed depending on the manufacturer.
Correct.
So if anything extra is needed, in this case, it's not, because we're not having to couple extenders or couple runs together or anything. You're actually trimming it back. In this case, you're doing one along the top. Yeah,
absolutely. So here's what I would do. So I would get Metro 16-2 wire. Okay. I would pull and center feed this to here, so you can put tape both ways. So in the middle there, center feed the tape to one of those block connectors we talked about, send it each way, and then pull a wire to each beside the micro hood, so right inside the cabinet, right down the side of the cabinet, and put power to each side of that. That makes sense. So
Right.
basically everything, if we were to go from the red spot, we go straight up and then right down each side of the cabinet. Something to keep in mind too, and then you pick your extrusion, right? So at this point, we're going to do a surface mount extrusion, and we would just surface mount it. And something to know when you're installing this is a lot of people automatically think extrusions in the back, as opposed to you want to put your extrusion up front, because otherwise you're not covering the full countertop. So you always want put your extrusion about an inch away from the front and have it shoot down. So that way it covers the full 120 degrees of the countertop. So if it's just in the back, you're highlighting your back, you're highlighting your backsplash, unless that's your intention. But for the most part, if you're doing task lighting, you want to have the extrusion up front.
Well, and having it in the back, if you have any kind of stuff on the wall itself, you're going to be creating shadows underneath of that, whatever you have on the wall. So if you have like an outlet with some plugs in it, you're going to make a shadow on that. Granted, bringing it forward, you may still be creating shadows, but it's a lot less than if you have that more on the back of it than instead.
Right, and you cover your task plane at that point as well.
Yeah. Mark's got another good point. He's saying remove the microwave to run wire. That's actually kind of a good idea, because what that's going to do is usually there's a cavity behind wherever the microwave is. And again, usually it's in that central location if it's mounted inside of the cabinets there. So that's a pretty good idea. I like that.
That's actually an awesome idea, because you're right. You take that front off, you pull it off, it falls right off the wall. I mean, that's a beautiful idea. And it's much easier to hide the wires that way, and then you don't have to go in through the cabinets at all.
It's great as an installer. It's great having other installers that are part of this our community here, because they say good ideas like this, and I get to use it at the next time that I'm doing something like this. So I get to steal their ideas.
Is Mark part of the Genius Group? Are you part of the Genius Group, Mark? Because you are saying some cool things, my friend.
Yep. And then we've got Faytonia. Hey, Faytonia, it's good to see you. Always love having you in the chat. All right, let's see. We'll go on to the next one here.
All right.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah, so this is a new construction layout. This is actually a real job we did, and it was a customer's poker room, and they put lines of light in the ceiling over their poker table. So if you take a look at this is mud and extrusion sitting right there, and we have our RGB tunable white tape on it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, so again, this is 7 watts per foot, because it puts out so much punch, because you have basically 3 diodes on it. The nice part about having a tunable RGB tape is because you're able to use 90 plus CRI chips or 96 plus CRI chips that basically make the white, right? And then you have your RGB chip in the back, because if you mix RGB with white chips, the only thing it does affect your CRI. That actually brings it down. But if you have your true white chip set up, and they tune within each other that are 96 plus CRI chips, then you're always going to have a 96 plus CRI look when it comes to white. So, so that's something to take a look at. So this tape max runs at 13.1 feet, so 4 meters. With that said, our square is 13 feet here. All 4 lines are 13 feet each. Okay, so this makes it easy. So first of all, you got to find a place for your power and your DMX controllers and your RS-232 engine. And at this point, it's new construction, so you can pull wire to the areas, and you want to pull it actually back to your closet. I just pull it back to your AV closet, put it right next to your rack or whatever you have there. Okay. Yeah. And then, because you have to remember, you have to daisy chain those DMX decoders together to get to make it effective. And something when you do daisy chain DMX, you want to use shielded cable, shielded Cat 5, shielded Cat 6, because you don't want that to affect. And I recommend Metra, by the way,
which is available from your Metra AV tech sales guy.
So you want to be able to daisy chain those together, shield the Cat 6, so you don't get any distortion in your DMX signal. With that said, too, so decide what the best tape is. We're going to do RGBTW because, again, I call it our mullet tape because it's business up front and party in the back, where you have your tunable white chips, 96 plus CRI, and you have your RGB, which is your party in the back. And actually, you have that right in your hand there. If you want to put,
I was going to say this looks like the RGB TW heat.
Yep. If you want to, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you don't mind, what I'm going to do here. I'm actually going to drop the display. Hold on.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
First off, we've got Mark, who's his response to you is he's saying he's just an old man. He's been doing it for 53 years. And then of course we've got Brent, who says he's happy to not be the oldest in this one. And Mark, you put Brent right back in his place. So I appreciate you, sir. I appreciate you.
Really?
I can't see the chat, but I'm sure it's good. I'm gonna read it later.
Yeah. So let's do this. We've got and actually he brings up a good point that
it's not a young face.
We're gonna put in the extrusion. We're gonna drop this here really quick, and I'm gonna change my camera over, and I'm going to highlight this really quick. Give me 1 second here. Hit the right button.
How many conductors is on this, Adam?
Sorry?
How many conductors on this?
This one here is a 6 conductor.
That is correct.
Zoom out here a little bit. So what we've got, and
what we got?
We're blurry, my friend.
Yep. Hang on. So this, I've always wanted
the Rgb chip.
To see this. Yes, it is. So hopefully I'm not giving away trade secrets or anything by zooming in on this here, but this is the Rgb chip that's part of that kit that you sent to us, the Rgb TW kit. Pardon me, I'm jumping around all over the place. But that there is what gives us the RGB. Now we can see that because we've got 3 different lanes, and I guess if we were to look at these at a microscopic level, even closer than we are here, we would see that they're slightly different tunings, right? So that we get the different colors out of that. Does that sound right?
Well, no. So what happens is, you're right. So each one would be its own color, and then how we tune different colors with that is basically you'd program the intensity. So for example, if we want to do if we want to do purple, we're going to mix blue and red together to make purple. But let's say you want to do maybe a little bit lighter, so you might take the intensity down on the red, or take intensity down on the blue to make a different color of purple, if that makes sense. Or
gotcha.
So when you're mixing it, so that's all going to be done through the programming, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, and so, but from there, then we go over here. In this, it's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
So this one's going to be a little bit harder to see because it's basically the entire piece here that is the. I believe I'm over the warm light.
That's correct. It's going to be more yellow, so it's going to be the 2700 Kelvin chip.
So let me zoom back out here on this one, and then the next one over from there. This is the white light.
Yeah, it's the 6000 Kelvin chip. Yep. And you see the shininess on there, guys. So just to let you know, these are IP54 tapes. So what that is this is sprayed with a polyurethane to make it damp proof. So the best part of this tape is it's damp proof right out of the bag. You're able to you're able to clean it, dust it, stuff like that, and not have to worry about it. It's not like an IP20 tape where it's paper thin and you can rip it in half.
So are we able to then put this in like kitchens and bathrooms and stuff where you do get the moisture and the steam coming off of things?
Yeah, depending on, like, if it's a steam shower, I'm going to recommend something more because you need that. But yeah, I mean, if you're putting it not in a shower but in the bathroom, it's not an issue. If you're putting it in a shower, I'm going to recommend putting an IP65 just because there are going to be a lot more splashes there. Or what we can do is we can seal it in an extrusion and protect it. So you can put it in the shower. If you seal it in an extrusion, and what you want to do at each end of the extrusion on the lens is you put a silicone coating, like a clear silicone on it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I believe, well, I think that's just a resistor on that.
Yeah, that's your chip. Yep.
Yep. So very cool. So that's we'll go switch back over here to our video. Actually, right, and there.
There we go.
So that's actually really cool. And pardon me, we got this. We had an entire episode recently where we were using this microscope to look at some things, and it's a handy tool to have for situations like this where we get to kind of show off the chips where you may not have seen it that close before. So
I've never seen him that close before. That works really well, my friend.
There you go. Maybe I'll make sure to take some pictures. I'll send it over to you.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
So now then what we're working with here, where did I cut you off? I think I cut you off at number 2, the decide which tape to use. Which
right.
In this case, we're using the RGB TW is the idea
Correct.
of it.
So we're using the RGB TW. So remember, you have 6-wire tape. And something to keep in mind, so your max run is 13 foot. Nice part is it's an easy square, and they're 13-foot runs. So where do you pull your wire in something like this? Is you pull your wire to 2 spots, okay, in this construction. Each corner diagonal, right? And then you'll run the tape each way from that. So something that is recommended, and because it's 6-wire tape, I would just pull a 14-4 and a 14-2. And that's if it's far away. So if you're like 100 feet away or 150 feet away, you pull that. But technically, you can get away with running a 16-4, 16-2 to those areas.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay.
Right.
And then, of course, we've got the wattage calculations from there, right?
Correct. Yep. So from there, we go to the wattage calculation. So we're running 13 foot. We run that times 4. Okay. So that's 52 foot. You times it by 7. We have 364 watts. Okay. So what I would do, we don't want to go over the 80. So I always recommend is a 240 watt power supply going to each DMX decoder and double the DMX decoder. Because something I didn't mention is this customer wants to be able to change half of it separately. So that's why we have 2 DMX decoders on this job.
Gotcha.
And we split it.
Very cool.
So if we program the DMX decoders together, we can get everything to the same colors. But if you have them on their own separate address, you could still get them to be the same color and split as well. So gotcha. This customer wants to be able to split us in half. So we're going to do 2 DMX decoders on that, 2 240 watt power supplies, and that's going to cover all our overhead there because each one's going to have 1 reel each connected to it, or very 2 cool. reels each. Okay. And then you pick your extrusion. Obviously, it's a mud-in extrusion. We built it right into the ceiling, and it lights that whole room great. And it's right over his poker table. It's an awesome job. I have other pictures as well. If you have anybody want to see it, I can send it to you. It's this one was done out of Massachusetts. So
yeah, it looks like a really fun job. The idea of having the mud-in or the drywall extrusions is nice because it fades away. You don't have anything sticking out from the drywall or the ceiling or wherever it is. You get this nice flush design to it. I liked seeing you actually have, or you were at CEDIA, and actually it was the first time that you and I met. But there at CEDIA, you had your display and everything for it, and it really sparked some ideas for me because, pardon me, you can really go in and do some interesting things, especially in theaters. In home theater situations, I like the idea of having them as your entry lights, and so you have it almost as like runners along the floor, not necessarily being on the floor, but kind of along the border of the floor, right. Shining out for those. And it creates, you don't have to worry about tripping on it or knocking it off with something as you're carrying it in because it's in the wall. It's actually flush to whatever the wall is. So you get kind of a nice flat design with that. Really neat idea. So
yeah, absolutely. Cool. And so I have a job that I just got a text message on yesterday that we just worked on. If you can see that is a wine room. Yeah, this is a wine room. And what they did was they did a bunch of mud and extrusions and made different shapes on it.
Oh, very cool.
And then they ran tape up each side of those pillars to illuminate the wine bottles. So pretty cool project. Very impressed with it.
Yeah, very cool. Very, very cool. Okay.
Oh.
All right. So what's next?
So what's next is
Contact information.
I am all done. Yeah, that's that I was gonna say, and it just hit this. I just got a text message, so it dinged, and it's like it's done.
It's done. It's done. So, so Ben, so some of the takeaways that I took from this, and I'm going to speak for myself because I'm still fairly new to this side of things, and you're inspiring me to do some interesting things with these. But the main takeaway that I took from it really is the power. Making sure that you've got a good power supply, you're not exceeding that 80% mark, because we don't want to run that amplifier full out all the time, or else it's just going to burn up. We're just going to run out. And I can appreciate that from like our surveillance side of things, back up, from our HDMI side of things, because again, when you have like an active HDMI cable and you have it plugged into, my TV went to sleep. When you have it plugged into the display's USB, or if you're using just the HDMI bus to power it, you're running that power through there at full bore. It's all the way out, and so over time, eventually, you're going to burn up that power supply, and that's essentially what we are trying to not have happen by making sure we hit that 80% mark, and that's really, really important. I think is one of the big takeaways from that. I'm going to do this here. So some of the other things that we have as takeaways. Hey, Brent. So when you're designing the systems, really taking on the full idea of you do have different types of lights, right? I mean, you don't have to rely on just the can lights or just the tube lights or whatever it is that you're using. You can use strip LEDs as actual lighting, not just as, hey, here's an RGB strip over here and it's an accent of some kind. These can light up the entire room. They can be the actual light source for that space. And then because of that, you now have the ability to put in some really interesting design ideas. So you could put some up there as your indirect light. You could put them as work lights, put them as night lights, underneath down at the kick. And just let your mind run wild with it. And so you can really design some interesting things.
Well, some of the things you haven't seen, because I had the opportunity to walk over to his table yesterday at the show,
right,
and see some of the wares.
Mm-hmm.
They've got an under onyx sheet, which is just awesome.
Yep.
Right.
For highlighting underneath an onyx or a glass countertop.
Oh, so it's actually shining through the countertop, the actual marble or onyx design for that. That's really cool. Very cool.
Some individual elements, and unfortunately, it's a long drive from Orlando to Lauderdale, and he did not get his table set up for the show.
Yeah.
But he does have some pretty cool stuff that was exciting to see for me as an integrator.
Yeah.
And then this morning I got to beat him up on CRI and how accurate the color was at breakfast.
I enjoyed that so much. I enjoyed that so much.
I'm sure you did.
Calls on, I put this one piece of rope light up and I got this other piece and the colors don't match.
Yeah, well, and that's single binning too. So all our product is single bin, so you'll never have that issue. But you're right. So you were to go to Amazon and buy a reel of tape, they don't single bin. It's cheap and expensive. IP20, and what they do is they just put any diode they can on it, and so 3000K diodes sitting next to each other could be two complete different color temperatures.
Right.
And so what we do is we single bin all our products, so it's always going to look the same. It doesn't matter if you buy a tape today and then buy another reel 6 months from now; it's all the same.
Yeah, very cool.
So, and Adam and I, with the car with the Heiss LEDs, the car side right behind us. We've seen a lot of stuff come in, they test, and a lot of it, how it fails.
Well, and again, full disclosure on that, we do have our own line of LED systems. Like Brent's saying, we have our own brand, the Heiss LEDs, and most of that is focused towards the 12-volt side of things, doing the underglow and things like that. But I really wanted to bring Ben on specifically because your systems are really focused towards the residential or the commercial side, where you're using them inside of a building rather than using it on a vehicle.
Well, and with the RS-232 and the IP interface, one of the things we don't do, the ability to control it with Control4, Crestron, URC, RTI is awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, basically, we can just turn stuff on and off.
Yeah. and then so the other good part of this is you have integrators that need help. Feel free to reach out. We do the layouts and stuff for you. You send us plans, we'll mark them up for you. We'll give you a bill of materials. You mark it up, send it to your customers. We make it easy. We're the easy button when it comes to custom integration and you offering LED lighting.
Very cool. Yeah.
Being
So
a chauffeur, I can tell you he does answer the tech calls.
yes.
You do.
So
yes.
here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put your contact information back up on the screen. Everyone, if you have questions, of course, leave it down in the comment section below, or you can leave it over in the chat and we'll reach out to you as well. But if you have questions for Ben specifically, leave it in the comment section below. I'll make sure that question gets over to Ben, or you can reach him over there. It looks like he's got a phone number, if you're okay with that, Ben.
Give it away. I put it on there for a reason.
303-923-1178 is Ben. You can, of course, also reach him at his email address at B.
Aymami. Aymami.
Thank you. Aymami. At AmericanLighting.com. So reach out to him directly if you have further questions about this stuff. And, of course, reach out to us as well if you also have questions. And we're happy to help out in any way that we can on our side. And like Ben was saying, of course, make sure when you're running wire for whatever you're using, run the Metro bulk wire whenever possible. So, and with all that said, we are at our 1 hour mark, so it's about time for us to go ahead and wrap this one up. Ben, it's been a pleasure. We really appreciate you on the stream with us today.
Good to be here. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. And so, of course, everyone, like, share, subscribe, hit that bell notification to let you know whenever we do go live, which, of course, is every Wednesday and Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And again, any questions, feel free to leave it down in the comment section below, and we'll be happy to answer any kind of questions for that. But
before we go any further, what will you be talking about this Friday?
So this Friday, I'm probably going to be talking about some of our bulk wire. We'll talk about some 16.4, maybe some 16.2. In fact, I think I've got 14.4, so 14 gauge 4 conductor. We'll talk about that this Friday, about what it is, how it works.
The other thing you should discuss on Friday, because I will not be there, you should discuss our shielded category cables as well, because if you're running the RS-232 interfaces for the DMX, you do want to use a shielded cable.
Perfect. Maybe we'll be talking about that. So everybody, thank you for checking in with us today. As always, reboot early.
Reboot often.
Don't cut your wires too short.
Turn off CEC.
And call tech support.
I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
I'm at CD Tech Center down in Lauderdale. Tech Expo? Yeah, Tech Expo Summit in Lauderdale. Have a great week. Come by and visit me.
Yeah, we will. It looks like Mark sent you, let's see. He says, did you get the article that he sent Brent? So, Brent, you may have gotten an article of some kind, so make sure that gets over to me.
You should have also got a copy of it. That was the one on the speakers, I believe. Speaker.
Oh, fantastic. Good. Okay, good. All right, everybody, thank you all. We'll see you all next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.